I think I have seen some examples of really good practices in universities, but I have also seen a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of silos, a lot of not connecting to the real world, so to speak. And I think one of the basic, very fundamental needs of the future of universities is to be able to connect theory, learning, and practice. And here I'm thinking, and it's very old-fashioned, but actually there were two great guys, Argyris and Schön. They talk about the reflective practitioner, and I think being able to, on the one side, to learn, get new knowledge, theories and models and all that. And it doesn't depend on which area you are in. And then go out and test, practice, prototype, some would say, try things out in the real world. And then, and that's very important, to go back into a more reflective space to actually make sense about what you have done, to reflect what went well, what did not go so well, where do we need to improve, and so on. If you can kind of make that circle work with learning in the classroom, so to speak, practicing in the real world, and then being in a reflective space, then I think you can do something really wonderful. And I see that in some universities, and I don't know all universities. I only know a few, but I also see that it's not happening. When it works well, I think the advantage is that you actually enable change and you enable positive things to happen in a much stronger and more sustainable way than in if you are just in the classroom or just in practice. By the way, it's funny because some universities, they have a system where they nominate professors to become professors of practice. And the first time I heard that, I was kind of like, what? You know, you should be in practice already. Of course you are at university, but you should also be in practice. You should also be in the real world. But it's actually a very renowned thing that your colleagues can nominate you to become after, doing lots of research and stuff. So being dancing in the kind of between practice and theory, I think, is what we need to do. And that's also, I sometimes see scholars and professors being very keen on publishing, very keen on theoretical parts and all the research they do, and they are not that interested. And it's not their fault, I think, because the way we monitor, the way we measure success within the university is very much about publishing, and that's how you get funds and all that. So, but I think it's really troublesome that we do not have a broader understanding of what a university is, and so in some universities, I see it's not that um, prestigious to teach, which I think is a very, very bad thing, because students are the future of our, the people who go out and should initiate change and do all the good things we need to do in our societies. So I'm thinking we need to think and act differently in some of these ways. I have seen it, and I also think that's also not only within the universities, it's also and you don't need to call it a lab. You can call it a community of practice. You can call it an alliance between different people. But I think if you can combine good people from universities, that be professors, students, others, with practitioners from the real world. So that could be people from the corporate world or the NGO sector, or it could be from the public sector, depending on what you work on. If you can combine people and put people together in a holding space, where they can actually act their way into new ways of thinking. I think that's very powerful, and I see that happening, but I don't see it enough. So I would, my aspiration would be to do more of this kind of work. Also because I think the challenges we are facing in well, very practically locally, but also globally, are so complex that we cannot keep on working in silos and working within the same science and working within the same profession and so on. We need to combine things in new ways. And I think if we talk about complexity and complexity science, you can see in nature a lot of things where you have multiple tendencies, you have multiple actors, you have multiple patterns, and the nature tends to be able to self-organize, even though we don't do anything. We don't do much. We have nice patterns within water, crystals, within plants, within a lot of things. And I think we can actually, when it comes to change and when it comes to the way human acts and maybe should be acting, we can learn a lot from combining things in new ways and let go a little bit of control and let things happen. So I'm thinking if we want to solve or at least help a little bit with climate change, with racism, with gender issues, social issues, poverty, you can just go on and on and on. I think we need to step out of our usual way of thinking, working. And I think universities play a crucial role here, because what universities can do is to provide learning spaces, but also methodology and theory, and improve our thinking and our way of working. But they cannot, well, they can, but it's not useful if they do it within their own silo. They need to get out of the silo and connect. So it's a lot about networking and creating new solution spaces, so to speak. So I think that also connects to the role of students, because students are perhaps the most important change agents we will see in the future. And I think if we can help students to work in some of these ways I have mentioned, then I think we can really do some good work. I have one example I remember from when I was young. I was at high school, and during high school, of course, we had teachers, but we also had people in internships coming from university, and they have studied, and then they were going to practice their teaching skills and so on with us. And I remember there was one guy who had studied for 5 years or something like that, for many years. And he was almost finalizing his master's degrees in history and Danish, I think. And then he came out and he met us. And I don't think we were particularly hostile or anything, but he found out that he didn't like to teach at all. And that was kind of like, why did that came so late? You know, why not connect? Why not go out and be in the real world, and also go back in the university, obviously, but go back and forth, so to speak. I think that's would also be the role of students to do more of this. I think if I compare what studies and universities, and I haven't done a comprehensive comparison, but what it looked like when I studied and when my daughter is studying at university now, and when I look at that, they have changed that a lot. So it has become more practical, but I think we can do more of that. So I'm thinking that we need another, or we need to encourage students to work more in the complexity zones, with the complex issues, because I think, at least in some of my work, I can see if we put people together in new ways and ask them very openly to work to co-create solutions and find ways to work in better ways, then magical things happen. And I don't think we can solve everything in the world. That's not what I'm arguing, but I'm just saying that there is hope if we organize and structure our work and our efforts in new ways.